what are some of the biggest mistakes that companies make in recruiting and hiring? Is there any that we may have maybe left out? We've talked about a couple of them, but what are some of the big ones maybe?
I think we talked about the most important, but I think what I notice in small, mid-sized businesses, they piecemeal the process together. Okay. So if we go back to the whole thought that first off, recruiting is a full-time job. It's not something you can passively do sometimes when it fits into your schedule.
Right.
And what I've noticed with, my customer base, generally 20 to 70 employees, no real HR, or HR is so completely overwhelmed, the last thing they have time to do is recruit.
Right.
Again, it's a full-time job out there. You can't kind of sort of do this.
Right.
And so companies give this responsibility to people who already have a full-time job in their organization, and they're supposed to fit that in. Well, it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
You have to be engaged in the recruiting process as much as you have to be engaged in the onboarding process all the way through. Right. So again, if you don't have 6 months because average search today, 12 to 15 weeks, depending on who you're looking for. That's an engagement process. I mean, you might get lucky if you've got your brand built, but again, that's a long time to be engaged. So, piecemealing it together, probably not a good idea.
Right. That makes so much sense.
And again, back to the hiring for fit, attitude, and then skills. I will say that is something about recruiting that will never change. That won't ever change. It hasn't changed. It doesn't matter what the market is. Again, if you don't get the first two right, it really doesn't matter what someone's skill sets are, because you just set yourself up for failure. Absolutely. And your team up for failure, because now you've got a morale issue, or you've got other issues that you have to contend with. And usually those are the calls I get from most CEOs. That's what's keeping them up at night. Either they can't find the people, or the people that they have are creating so much turmoil in their organization. They spend more time thinking about that. And then they do
all the other strategies.
Productive.
Right. Absolutely. And if one cancerous person, boy, it just creates it's awful. And I will also say this, Lesley, I coach a lot of owners who are not great at confrontation in their organizations.
Sure.
They're timid about holding people accountable. They're timid. They don't like to fire people. It's uncomfortable. That's not really the culture that they like. For those people, I would say, if you want to do less of that and take that out of the equation, do the work on the front end, get the right people in the door, and you will have to do that far less. Because again, most small businesses are like, this is my family. I want to have this really warm, comfortable atmosphere in many, many cases. And those are the folks, they struggle with letting those, even though they see that person wreaking all kinds of havoc, it takes them a very long time to get rid of them. And that, again, in the scheme of things with customers, with trying to grow your business, that is a bad case scenario. So spend your time in the front end, and you'll have to do way less of that on the back end, is what I see as makes sense.